welcome to the Wealth Twins show. On today's episode, we're going to talk about what is the best way to grow your retirement savings when you're feeling like you're falling behind. So, I'm going to turn it over to Nadia and see what she thinks is the best way.
Well, I would start off by saying the reason why we're doing this video is because I was having a conversation with a friend of the family and she was home and I asked her what's going on. She said, I'm not working right now. And I'm thinking to myself, she's in her late 60s. And I asked her what happened. She's a home health care worker. And she said, the lady who I was taking care of, who's 102, is currently in the hospital, so I'm not working. And she gets paid by the hour. Now, it got me to thinking two things. One, it's amazing that she's taking care of a woman who's 102, but at the same
True.
time, she's in her late 60s. So she should be retired, but she can't retire because she didn't have enough in retirement savings. And that
Hmm.
to me said, you know what? There's a problem here that needs to be addressed because people are living longer, but they're also working longer too. So how can we help people? So one of the ways I say, if you feel like you don't have enough retirement savings, I think one of the best things you can start doing is start learning how to invest as soon as possible. Even if you feel like, I don't have enough time, I'm too late, and you feel behind, investing now makes a huge difference and can make a huge impact on what you have in terms of your retirement savings. What I've known for a lot of older people who are around me, it's very hard to live on a fixed income, right? So if you're planning on living on a fixed income, don't accept that. Right now, use the money you have, especially if you're in your 40s or 50s. You can use your money you have to start supplementing the income that you think you're going to have in your retirement time. You don't have to stop. Even if you're investing late, it's better than doing nothing and just accepting the fact I'm going to live on this. You have more of a chance to live longer, so you might as well give the money that you have now a purpose and make that purpose supplementing your income. You may not be able to fully retire, but at least you give yourself some flexibility.
You reminded me of, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they came up with a term that I had never heard before, and it was called the silver tsunami. Have you heard
Okay.
about this, Nadia? You know what a silver tsunami
No,
is?
but I got a good idea of it. What is it?
Okay. Well, it basically the tsunami is because it's referencing more like Japan, right? But the silver tsunami is, if you look at what's going on in Japan right now, their population is getting older and older and older. It's one of the longest living populations there are in the world. On the other hand, though, is that their birth rates are going very low. They're actually not giving birth at a rate that can replace the people that are growing older, right? So they have a problem there. Now, when it comes to the silver tsunami, is that they have so many people that are now needing services because they're retired or they need just services that you need as you get older, that they really don't have the workers or the people there to actually help with them. So you're talking about a supply and demand problem. So it's also leading to rising costs. And you see this all across the board in a lot of countries where the way families are structured now, it used to be that families would take care of the older generations and the older generations would help out with the younger generations, whereas it's not so much that is the case as it was before. It's more so now that we have assisted living homes, we have home health aides, we also have just retirement homes in general, and as the list gets longer depending on what services you need and how much care you need. But that's a whole industry that's getting bigger but also is becoming more expensive. So if you don't have retirement savings, and as Nadia said, we're living longer, it's going to be harder for you to get those services if you don't have people that you can rely on. It's going to help you out as you get older, right? It's not just a money thing, it's an ability thing. Maybe your children are far away, maybe you don't have any children. The costs are going to be there, and you got to find a way to make sure you're able to cover those costs. And one of those ways to do that is by investing specifically for your retirement needs. So you definitely need to be able, no matter what, even if you're starting late, it's better for you to try to take it into your control because you know these costs are coming, right? It's just like the seasons of the year. We know that spring always follows winter, right? We know that summer follows spring. These things happen, right? So you have to plan. You should be planning as if you're going to live longer, and with that you should have a plan in place on how you're going to pay for those years. Okay, you can't go on hopes and dreams. You have to have a plan, and one way to make those things happen and get the money that you need is by investing specifically for retirement.
Yeah, I would agree. And when I see you speaking about that, first thing that popped in my head was I know. Fortunately, unfortunately, I learned a long time ago no one's coming to save you. So if you
Mm.
think that maybe, oh, I'll rely on Social Security, I'll rely on this, at the end of the day, they're voting to keep raising the age where you can actually start getting your full Social Security payments or anything like that. So understand no one's going to save you. That means you have to take control while you still can take control and do what you can to safeguard yourself. Now, if you're looking at the numbers, the amount of adults that are working, older adults that are like 65 or older working in the workforce, it's around 19%, right? And that number is increasing every year. So if that is the case, that means, okay, maybe a lot of people are choosing not to retire. And if you're choosing not to retire because maybe, you know what, maybe they're making the most money ever made in their lives. Maybe they like what they're actually doing and they have that flexibility. But what I will tell you is that if you choose not to retire and you want to continue working, you want that to be a choice that you want to continue working because you want to, not because you have to. Because it's a whole different story if you're working because you have to versus you think it's something enjoyable and you think it's something to fill your time up during the day and you want to. That's a whole different retirement life that is in your future depending on the actions that you take now. And I'm speaking mostly to 40 and 50-year olds who say, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm falling behind. You have enough time right now to plan out the type of retirement you think you want later on when you say, I want to continue working or I don't want to continue working.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Nani, when it comes to like say people in their 40s and 50s, because we get emails that tell us I'm falling behind, I feel behind. Is it too late for me to start investing when I'm in my 40s or in my 50s? And my answer to that is, what is your alternative, right?
True.
You're gonna sit there, are you gonna complain about it? Are you gonna cry about it? Because I can tell you what I tell my kids, crying does not solve the problem, right? And any type of investing you do, even at that age, will have some benefit for you. Now, yes, we know, and Nadia and I have said it before, that the best thing you can do is invest 20 years ago, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you want time on your side when you're in the market, right? But if you're extending your life and you're saying, look, I'm going to live or I'm going to be working until at least from the age of 40 to 65, 70 or so, you still will have time in the market. Now, on top of that, the reason why people say you need to have time in the market is because you can use a little bit of money and make a big impact over time because of what's called compounding. Now, I had a teacher that was teaching me math. Yeah, I went to tutoring for math, right? But I still remember what this tutor said to me. He asked me if I could touch my nose, right? So I said, yeah, I could touch my nose. I went like this. He goes, do you know how many different ways there are to touch your nose? And he said, you can touch it like this, you could touch it like that. He was just trying to make a point, right? And that always stuck with me because that to me means there's always more than one way to solve a problem, right? There's always an obvious way, but there's other ways that aren't so obvious, but still will get you to the same point in terms of reaching your goal. Now, if your goal is to have enough retirement savings, then yes, you might not have time on your side, but you know what you do have? You have more money than that 20-year-old had. Okay. You could put more money in the stock market, right? You put more money in the market, you will get to the same point, right? You might lose out on time, but having enough capital in the market could get you to the same point where you need to go. But with that all being said, you have to start because not doing anything rather than thinking you're starting late is costing you more. Okay. So again, like Nadia said, no one's coming to save you. And it's better for you not to cry about it. It's better for you to actually do something about it. And even if it's late, it's better than not doing anything at all. I know I'm a little passionate about this, a little tough, but you have to really understand it because you know it's tough? It's tough not being able to make ends meet when you're 60s, 70s, 80s. It can be tougher when you're trying to work at 80, okay? And you're taking care of a person that's in the hundreds. All right. That's even tougher. So take the tough love now and actually put some action behind it.
Well, when I think about that, I also think about, you know what? If you are looking at retirement, there's different levels, right? Just because you might be feeling late, feeling like, oh, I can't fully retire as a millionaire, that's a different goal, right? If you have a
Mhm.
goal of just covering your expenses, that's a more achievable goal because your expenses most likely are going to go lower as you get older, hopefully. You might move into a smaller place. You may not have all the expenses that you have right now. So you can think in those terms too. So what you have right now may not be the same picture that you have later on. So the retirement funds you need may actually be lower. So don't feel defeated because you think, I just don't have enough money, because you're looking at today's numbers versus tomorrow, right? But I want to speak specifically to women. This is very important for you because most likely, if you are married, you might outlive your husband. I just That's based on statistics, right? So you have to be able to provide for yourself. And then just looking at couples, divorce rates. You don't know what your expenses are going to be. Maybe you're building your expenses on the fact that there's two people handling those expenses. When it drops down to one, those are whole different numbers. So just protect yourself by understanding what you have to do now to create the kind of life that you want later on. And I'm pretty sure you want that life to be easier, not harder. So make the sacrifices now, and your future self will thank you.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to your expenses, yeah, if you project them out, yeah, a lot of your expenses should be decreasing as you get older.
Hmm.
But there's one expense that actually increases, but we do have some control over it, right? The expense that can most likely increase as you get older is your health expense,
Yeah.
right? The cost of drugs for prescriptions, the cost of, you know, going to the doctors, taking care of yourself. But you could control that. So on top of investing in the stock market for your retirement savings, you also need to be investing in your health, right? So that you can lower those expenses. But there's also ways to invest in the stock market to cover your health expenses. And with that, that
Exactly.
is a HSA. That's a
I was
health
just
savings
about to
account.
say the same thing. Yep. HSA.
Okay.
Take advantage of.
Take care of that as well. All this is with the stock market and with the help that you can use with the stock market, but you have to take action. And you'd be very surprised at how quickly that health savings account, if that's something you can use and is beneficial, because it's not beneficial for everyone. But if you're able to hold on to that health savings account and you get into it, and then you're able to hold off until after you retire, it becomes a very useful account, not just for health, but also in general for retirement savings. Okay. So if you understand that, and you can see, yeah, you know what? It is beneficial for me to not like only not to do just like Nadia said, which is understand your expenses are going to go down, but also have a plan on how you're going to cover expenses because you can't just say I'm going to be a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
If that's you, that's great, and that's something you can strive for. And if you could do that and you want to strive for it, we can show you how to do it as well. But let's make the baseline covering all expenses and also making sure that you're not just surviving, right? When we're talking about covering expenses and saving for retirement, we don't want anybody to just survive in retirement. The stock market is going to help you thrive in retirement. And then after that, we're going to put some, extra frosting and stuff
You
on
get some
top.
cheese on that. You get some
Get some
cheese.
cheese
Get
on
the
it and get the
bases covered.
millionaire status. But our first job is to teach you how to invest so that you can thrive in retirement because you can definitely, survive. Social Security hopefully will be around, but no one's if you don't want to and if you don't have to, that's not something that you really have to depend on. Okay, so use the stock market so they can thrive, and then learn how to throw some cheese on it, like Nadia said, so you can become a millionaire in that status, which is also not very difficult depending on the time you have and the amount of money you put in, and
Mhm.
also what you invest in.
There's multiple angles you can hit this from. So don't sit there and act like you don't have any options, okay? Because there's a lot more in your control that's not in your control.
The point with this whole podcast episode today is that it's really essential and it's fundamental for you to learn how to invest if you are feeling behind when it comes to saving for retirement, okay? Because the best thing you can do for yourself if you feel in that way is to take action and to learn how to invest. So, with that, if you're in your 40s and 50s and you're feeling behind when it comes to saving for retirement and you want to learn how to invest, but what's stopping you is that you don't even know where to start because maybe it's the complex terms and things like that, do me a favor, click the link down below in the description and download our 25 complex investing terms made simple. Because if you want to know where to start, I suggest you start there. And from there, 99 can help you on your journey. All right, guys?
We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.